Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at rainieravenue.world.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, your host, Tony B. This is our special impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities broadcast. If you are just joining us, we do this every Friday from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Earlier at 1 o'clock, I was joined by Ryan Preco, Director of Policy and Advocacy for Childcare Aware of Washington, talking about the impact of the coronavirus on frontline workers, essential workers. That's what the governor said, those who take care of the youngest, and the impact that has, which meant we also crossed over a little bit into early education and brain development. And again, the importance of these folks during this particular time. It's essential. Just finished talking to Joseph Sayah, Executive Director of Pacific Islander Community Association of Washington. Shared a bit with you about, again, what is for them a movement to separate the Native Hawaiian and a Pacific Islander community from the Asian community, which kind of talked a little bit about why they were all grouped together in the first place. But the coronavirus pandemic has exacerbated the differences and the challenges that the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander community are having without really having the same voice at the table to discuss the issues. A little later on, William White will be joining me from My Brother's Teacher, and basically what he's doing is he's trying to get more black males to think of early education as a career. So we kind of got an early education crossover here. And I know that my next guest is a proponent of education as well, aside from being president and CEO of the United Way of King County. Mr. Gordon McHenry Jr., how are you doing?
I'm doing reasonably well. Thank you, Brother B.
Yep. Just because I've talked about some things before we get into the United Way of King County. How are you doing? And I know you got a lot of things going on, and just general for you during this time. And we're going to talk specifically about United Way of King County and your role as president and CEO. As a community member,
Right.
How are you doing?
No, I appreciate that, and I tell people in these days and times when somebody says, "How are you doing?" It is it's a challenging question to answer. I've been choosing to say I'm doing reasonably well because I know that I've got I feel blessed, and I feel like I have some privilege that I need to own, and that's a home. I'm working remote from my home. I've got a beautiful wife and a couple young adults that are in the house, so we're taking good care of each other. But it's really hard to see the amount of disruption and loss of income, fear, and we're going to talk about some of those things today, and to know that it's falling so hard on our communities of color. I talk occasionally with folks in the immigrant and refugee community. Words matter, behavior matters, and there's a lot of hurtful things that have been said for the past several years that make people scared and make people wonder about the safety and health of living in America and being a person of color. So I've got my privilege, but I'm feeling a lot of that, and it's disturbing and makes me angry, makes me sad when I look at my young adults and see that they are questioning this place as a place to belong. So thank you for asking. Thank you for allowing me to share. And I'm also hopeful. I love being at United Way. The folks on our team are so committed to wanting to be of service and to be in community. We're having lots of explicit conversations about racial equity and about the need for racial justice and our role to evolve and to be a better, a more just, and more anti-racist organization. So this feels like a good time for me to be leading United Way and to be active in this community.
All right. United Way of King County. Let's start with that. Who is the United Way of King County? What does the United Way of King County do? Um, and how did it get started? Just give us some background information on the United Way of King County.
Sure, appreciate that. There is a United Way of King County. I have the privilege of leading it. We're almost 100 years old. We serve all of King County. We operate from a belief that our community should be one where people have homes, where students graduate, and where families are financially stable. And so that really means that we're concerned about the homelessness and housing instability that is a chronic, challenging situation in our community. We know that there's room for improvement in terms of our students being prepared for successfully experiencing the K-12 education system and actually having the opportunity and success at education beyond high school. We focus on the 2-year community college experience. And we know that poverty, there's too much poverty in King County, across the country, but in King County. And we know that poverty is a root cause, racism is a root cause of poverty. And so there are reasons why people continue to struggle with poverty in 2020 in the United States in King County. There are about 1,100 United Ways in the United States of America, and there are other United Ways across the world. All work under the brand of United Way, meaning coming together as individuals, staff, employees, donors who donate money to United Way, corporations that support our work, foundations, public sector like governments that we partner with. And then we work, most of our work is done by working with local nonprofits to actually do the direct services in those areas I talked about. Although we do every year have between 100 to over 200 AmeriCorps young people who work in the community under the United Way of King County brand and name.
During these times of crisis, it's made one thing clear that some people they don't know where to go for help,
Yeah.
and then places where they traditionally went for help weren't getting help there. Um, uh, for United Way, how have you positioned yourself, and and are you being responded to in that way? Do folks see you as a funder, a direct services provider? You offer programs. Are you an organization that focuses on equity and justice? And we're going to talk about some of the programs that you do too, but that you fund.
Sure.
But for folks who are saying, okay, well, where does United Way of King County fit into all this? And during these times, how do you get the messaging out about who you are, and how is that working as an entity and an organization to accomplish the goals that you have?
Right. Appreciate that. Let me answer one thing really quickly. If you are listening and you're in need of help, human services, basic services, essential services now that people call it, and you don't know where to turn, call 211. Call 211. And that's a central location where you can get information. You just have to say, I live in this community, King County, Snohomish County, Pierce Counties, South Seattle, wherever, and this is my concern. How can I get help? And there'll be somebody there to answer that. They may not come back to United Way. They may go to another organization, but that's a great place to start. The other way, of course, for those who go to the web, uwkc.org. We have a lot of information on our website in terms of resources. And then for those who are interested in our programs that you and I are going to talk about, or if you're a person who has interest in supporting nonprofit work and want to make a donation or support our COVID relief work, there's information on our website, uwkc.org. So that's one way. We have you're very smart. We are all those things. We are a funder in the sense that we fund nonprofit organizations to do work in the community. We raise money and for United Way, and then pass that through to the community through other organizations. We actually have some direct staff who work in certain areas, like in food or helping with completing your tax return so you can get more refunds. So yeah, and the summer meal programs, if you go around the community and you see, and before COVID, those places like get a free meal, get a meal during the summer, a lot of times those are staffed by United Way employees. So we do all of that. We have about 150 organizations that are currently receiving funding, community organizations that are receiving funding from United Way. So they help get the word out about their services and about our role. So some of that is, word of mouth or email or websites. And then we, in the time of COVID, have had, like many organizations, shift to virtual. So much of our in-person work now is done virtually or done through contactless deliveries, and we can talk more about that. But yeah, we're trying to push it out and social media and through our partners.
All right, we're going to talk more specifically. You know, the way I became engaged, it's just a number of different things that y'all do. Uh, with early learning was through United
Mm,
Way years and years and years ago, the Born Learning Program.
right.
You guys do a bunch of different stuff. I want to talk a little bit about you here for a second before we go into it. This is the person who you're listening to, Gordon McHenry Jr., the president and CEO of United Way of King County. Prior to United Way of King County, Mr. McHenry served as president and CEO of Solid Ground, executive director of Rainier Scholars, and as corporate counsel, and then in a variety of executive leadership roles at Boeing. Mr. McHenry is a lifetime resident of King County, serves on a number of different boards and involved with education and social service and environmental issues. Currently serves as chair of the Washington State Partnership Council on Juvenile Justice, member of the King County Regional Homelessness Authority Implementation Board, and is a member of the boards of the Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and Mountains to Sound Greenway Trust. One of the things that we're going to talk about today that was brought up as essential for us to talk about, and I know there's a number of them, was the rental assistance program. And
Mhm.
we were talking earlier with Joseph Seau, and one of the things that he was talking about with the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander community was that home instability. So let's talk about the
Yeah.
rental assistance program. Let's start with that and tell us about the rental assistance program, what it is, what you
Great.
do, and how folks can utilize your services.
Great. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a big deal. We in this time of COVID have focused for United Way anyway on two issues that we felt like we could be a partner and support to the community. One was around housing instability for folks who were struggling with eviction. And then after COVID, and with COVID, now rental assistance. They're unable to pay their rent on time. The debt, even though there's a eviction moratorium, the debt is accruing. It's back debt. It's due and payable when the moratoriums are lifted. We wanted to work with those folks to address that aspect. The other one we can, if you want to talk about, also is the growing folks who need help with food. And so we had a program that had some connection with the Mariners, who were helpful in helping us think through it, and we called it home base program, and it was eviction prevention. And in just about a year, we helped over 1,400 households avoid eviction. And we worked in partnership with the King County Bar Association, who provided legal advice. We worked with the Urban League. We worked with Wellspring Family Services. And so basically, when you could get a lawyer and a human services case manager to help you with your landlord and avoid, negotiate, figure out access to funds, pay down debt, and avoid eviction. If you get evicted in King County, it's over 80% likelihood if you get evicted in King County because you're unable to pay your rent, there's about an 80% likelihood you will be homeless. And so we understood that, and we were called into action. COVID came, and we realized we needed to, and with the moratoriums on eviction, we needed to work and concentrate on rental assistance. And so we've been working since the springtime with people who raise their hand and say, "I need help." We work and negotiate with their landlords to accept a partial payment in settlement of that month's rent, and therefore they get to stay in their unit, and they know that when the moratorium is lifted, they have less debt or no debt if we've been successful in negotiating away all of the debt. The longer the moratorium, longer the COVID lasts, the harder it is. And so we're in like round 3 now of working on rental assistance, working with some of the money that comes from the federal government through the state and into the city and county. We're now trying to negotiate with landlords for like 4 months to 6 months of back rent, because that reflects the challenges that the community is experiencing. So we're working with we're getting close to working with around 5,000 households, or about 10,000 individuals, people and family members that are living in King County. And we will continue, if we're successful with our fundraising, we will continue, or receiving federal funds, we'll continue with this rental assistance work into 2021.
Along with the rental assistance program and other programs, what have you seen in regards in our communities to people who are requiring services? Have you seen an increase? Maybe this is an obvious question, maybe it's not. Have you seen an increase? Has the face of that group of folks changed? Has the socioeconomic status of those folks changed? What are you seeing from where you sit?
Right. What I'm seeing is what I knew to be the reality, and my folks at United Way knew it. My folks at Solid Ground knew it. What we're seeing is that of the people that are coming to United Way and our team now is expanded to include Neighborhood House, Solid Ground, the Racial Equity Coalition. We could talk about that group. But what we're seeing is about 70% of all the folks who are applying for services and receiving services are people of color. About 50% are raising a family. And so, not surprisingly, the disproportionality that we either see or experience or know from looking at studies is existing in this rental crisis that is disproportionately falling onto the households of people of color, households of families, and of course our people in our community who were working in jobs that were closer to living wage or lower wage, and they are now not working, or they have reduced hours. Our data says that over 529,000 people have sought unemployment insurance in King County between March and the first week in November. And that's some of the demographics. Those people are the ones are saying, I need help to be able to navigate this crisis and stay in my home, in my apartment, my rental.
Well, what we also know is happening, and I talked a little bit about this earlier, it's getting worse. And they anticipate that it's going to get worse than that.
Yes.
As an organization, as an entity, how do you prepare for this? What do you have to say to folks? Again, if the margins are already stretched thin, and the services that you provide are, again, just like the hospitals, again, where they're seeing a surge, and it takes a toll on the hospital workers. How are you preparing for this, and what would you say to people during this time, as times become more difficult in a number of different ways that this coronavirus is impacting our communities?
Yeah, one thing is don't lose hope. I started this conversation on that I know I have privilege, but I would say to you, if you are struggling, if you need help, ask for the help, seek the help. Don't lose hope. There are lots of people who have capacity and who are generating their wealth, their income to help nonprofits like United Way, Urban League, Wellspring, Solid Ground, many others. We are putting to good use the CARES Act. Sadly, it's coming. CARES Act is the money that the federal government appropriated back in springtime, early summer. We're putting that to good use. So I'd say, seek help, ask help, and don't give up. Don't just isolate yourself with all that stress and not seek help. I think you will find that people are going to try to help want to help you, and there are resources. There's not enough, I agree. And it will get worse because this is such a strong and deep economic recession caused by the pandemic, and that is lasting for so long. And that leads me to the next thing. We need to continue to advocate forcibly, loudly, consistently with Congress to take action. And like I said, we're spending money at United Way and our partners that was appropriated months ago, but there's been no action since. And we need Congress uh, to come together and appropriate more dollars, more emergency dollars that can be used in our local communities to help with things like rental assistance and with food insecurity.
How has the pandemic impacted United Way of King County? The way that you do business, whether it's because of isolation, everyone now is online. Um, have you had to lay off people? How have you been able to ensure the safety of the folks who work and volunteer for United Way of King County? How has this impacted you?
Right, right. Definitely impacted us. We went to working. We have our main buildings in downtown Seattle. We closed that to our staff and to the public in the first week in March. And we've been in that status since consistently since March. I've told our team you should assume you'll be working from home until at least July 1st of this year. We have only just a very few people that go into the building to make sure things are still functioning and to check the mail, that kind of a thing. Every program that we do, we've shifted into either doing it virtually using the internet, handheld devices, computers, or we've gone into touchless delivery. So, for example, one thing I'm really proud of is we have a great program, and you may have heard about it. It's called the Last Mile. So that's where you identify that you need help with your food, through a local bank or through your local close relationship, nonprofit, and then we get that information into the food bank. They work with Safeways. Safeway works with volunteers and employees, and DoorDash comes and they pick up the food and they deliver it to that person to their doorstep. We're working with some nonprofits to make sure that that food is culturally appropriate. Russell Wilson and his wife Ciara recently have endorsed this, and for those who have some interest, they're selling aprons at the Safeway stores. And Russell's challenging people to support this effort, and he's selling aprons at the Safeway stores, and all that money goes into the United Way of King County's Last Mile project to enable food banks, Safeway, DoorDash, and United Way to get food to people. And that's so that because those folks oftentimes don't have transportation anymore to get to the food bank. They don't have income to buy food. They are vulnerable from a health standpoint. So traveling on the bus or leaving their home is unsafe. And so what we're doing is getting the food to them. And I think that may be one of the shifts that we come out of this pandemic is a lot of the services were designed around, if you need help, you go to the service provider. A more reasonable approach is, if you need help, we'll come to you. And I think you're going to see more of that. And I think that will continue beyond the times of COVID. And I think we'll be a better community.
My guest again is President and CEO Gordon McHenry Jr. of the United Way of King County. We just have a couple of minutes left, Gordon, and I want to give you the space here. One of the questions I have is we have a show on at 12:30 airs earlier called Seniors Matter. It talks about seniors all the time. If you do, or if you have programs for seniors, we've only got a couple minutes left, and I want to give you the space here to talk with the community and share what you want to share with the community as President and CEO of the United Way of King County.
Sure. I think part of what I wanted to share with this in this community, with this community, and with this conversation. I am in this community. I live in Upper Rainier Beach. Proud to do so, and I know that the challenges that many people face in King County can be correlated to race, ethnicity, gender, and geography. And so there's a power in living in South Seattle, Southeast Seattle, South King County. And I know that we have too many people who are suffering, too many haves and have nots. I would say don't give up hope. Services are being made available, and we and all the nonprofits are working incredibly hard to get you the support that you need, not just United Way, but all the hundreds of nonprofits out there. Our country and this community is having another opportunity to seriously understand the existence of systemic racism, the racial inequity that exists, and the need for racial justice. And so that's not easy. That's hard work. That's lived experience. That's living experience. But I appreciate that people are more aware. I appreciate that people are wanting to find ways to move from solidarity, move from understanding to solidarity to action. And again, I would say when you have the capacity, don't give up on the hope. Don't give up on demanding that people see you for who you are, love you for who you are, and support you in all the ways that matter. I believe that we can get there. I believe we're moving in that direction. It's the worst of times, but I'm remaining hopeful. I think that's my message.
All right. Gordon, thanks for joining me, man, right here on Rainier Avenue and sharing information with us about United Way of King County. Quickly, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that? How do you get in touch with King County, United Way of King County?
Yeah. Best way nowadays is if you can get to the internet, uwkc.org, and there's information on resources, on our programs, and on how to seek help. And then, of course, if you need help, don't rely just on United Way. We're a great place, but you can always go to 211. And for those of you out there who are listening and want to be a part, we still accept volunteers. We have ways of working on the volunteer work in a way that's safe for you and safe for the community. And we, of course, are raising money. COVID-19 Relief Fund to help with rental assistance and to help with food in particular, rental and food in particular. And if you have some money you want to invest in that effort, uwkc.org donate, or uwkc.org rent, uwkc.org food for get help. And so, yeah, we want to be a partner with you, and we're in it for the long haul. Things will get better, but we all got to come together while we continue to survive the pandemics of COVID and the pandemics of systemic racism.
Thanks for joining me. Coming up next is going to be William White. He's started an entity called My Brother's Teacher. To make a long story short, again, what he will do is he's trying to get young black males to become teachers in early education. So we're going to talk about that. Obviously, we'll talk about how that relates to the pandemic, and we'll be back right after this. Rainier Avenue Radio. The Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, empowering communities and changing lives. The Urban League has been there to serve when our community is at its lowest. It's never mattered what the crisis was. The systemic oppression remains constant for those most vulnerable. Here at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, we'll be temporarily adjusting our hours of operation and available services. If you are in need of resources, we recommend that you give us a call at 206-461-3792. To make an appointment, press 0 and speak with the receptionist. Walk-in hours will be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. And hey, we'll gladly work with you via phone as best as we can if you're exhibiting any signs of illness to assist you with information to save your home, find you a place to sleep, or connect you to job opportunities. The Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. That's 206-461-3792.
Sergio LaCour's Love Lines is on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Thursday nights at midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. Music and dedications for the grown and sexy.
Hey, Buford, why are you kicking that old CD player?
Because I can't hear the radio.
Can't hear the radio? Let me help you.
Hey, you two, quit beating up that outdated audio equipment. You can't hear the radio on a CD player.
You can.
No, you can't, you adorable simpletons. But you can hear some great radio on the Rainier Avenue Radio app. It's brand new, it's free, and it's available for Android and iPhone. In fact, you can download the Rainier Avenue Radio app right now from the Google Play Store or the iPhone App Store.
I'm going to go get me a smartphone right now.
I'm just going to put a graduation cap on my rotary phone.
You two have very significant personal issues. Get the Rainier Avenue Radio.world app today.